Hello, everybody.
Hi,
Welcome to the Bill and Kelly Show, coming to you live.
I said good morning. I'm like, wait, no, it's afternoon. Never mind.
Yeah, we're confused. We had a busy couple of days. So we want to welcome you to the Bill and Kelly Show, live from Sip Coffee House here in Highland. We've got a interesting guest with us today. Been kind of excited about this because anyone that supports schools, by golly, we want to support and get their story out there. And so this is Judi Caddick. Caddick. And yeah, that's right. There's no H in there.
Right.
It's Caddick. I'm sorry. These two are going to be correcting me. One's a teacher, so she is the president of the Highland Education Foundation. And welcome to our show, Judi.
Yes,
and why don't you start out by telling it about yourself, where you're from, and where you went to school, and so on.
I'd like to start out by thanking you for having me today.
We are very honored.
I am a native Chicagoan, grew up in Chicago, went to South Shore High School, which at that time was one of the top 10 high schools in the city, so I feel like I had a very good public education. I stayed home for a while. I was married, had a couple kids, and decided that I really wanted to continue my education. So I got my associate's degree from South Suburban in South Holland, and then I got my bachelor's degree from Chicago State University, and I got my master's from Valparaiso University. I taught middle school for 27 years. I taught for 2 years in Hammond, Indiana, at Scott Middle, and then I taught for the rest of the time I taught was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math, mostly 8th grade math in Lansing, Illinois. So, I love teaching. I retired 3 years ago, and as luck would have it, trying to figure out, I knew staying home doing nothing was not going to be something I wanted to do. My daughter, who's also a teacher, had taught in Griffith for a few years before she had her third child. And while she was there, she got a grant from the Griffith Education Foundation to do a project with her fourth grade students, teaching them about supply and demand. Subsequently, she stayed home with her youngest one for a few years, and then she took a long-term sub position in Highland. And while she was there, one of her colleagues had this wonderful idea. My daughter said, well, if you don't have the money for it, because most teachers take a lot of money out of their own pockets to pay for classroom activities for their students, she said, we'll write a grant to the foundation. And the Highland teacher said, what foundation? And that's when we found out that Highland did not have an education foundation. Education foundations are extremely prevalent in Northwest Indiana and the state of Indiana in general. Hammond Education Foundation has been in existence for over 30 years. Munster and Griffith both have Highland Education Foundations. Lake Central, Hobart, Maryville, Valparaiso, they all have education foundations. So when I found out that Highland didn't have one, I thought, that's ridiculous, why not? So a week after my retirement, I made an appointment to go in and see the superintendent of Highland Schools, Brian Smith. My daughter and I went in to see him and to talk to him about how he would feel about us taking on this project. And he opened up his desk drawer and he said, I have a folder. The previous superintendent said the one thing he always wanted to accomplish during his tenure with Highland was to find someone who would be willing to take this on. So he said, and you just walk into my office and make the offer. So he said, here's all the information I have, and you have my blessing.
I was going to say, that was perfect timing,
It's been quite a journey. These last 3 years have been quite the journey.
And one of the things that we've gone through in the state of Indiana is how education is funded. We've gone through a bunch of cycles under Mitch Daniels' term. He did reallocation, and on top of that, where these schools were funded by the state budget, and it then put into effect the tax caps in 2008, I believe, which also then affected the school district's ability to readily get out and fund their budgets like they used to be able to. But historically, if you can remember back as a teacher, they've always gone out and gotten their own stuff. Sometimes they were able to put in a voucher. Sometimes they, or said, "Sorry, we don't have the money to fund it." That's historically a nice thing about foundations. It's now teachers have a way of going in with special projects that they want to do and hopefully get grants. So, and that's what the foundations are all about. That's neat. So, going on, how once you formed the foundation, what was the next step?
Well, the first thing we did was drew up the Articles of Incorporation and Tauber Law, and they happened to be the attorneys for Town of Highland as well as Town of Highland. And one of the partners in the firm, Tara Tauber, graduated from high school with my daughter. So my daughter put in a call to her, and we drafted the articles based on some research that we had done and had her look them over, and she made a couple suggestions, and we got those filed. So we were incorporated September 11th, 2015. The next step, because before you can really do much in the way of fundraising, you want to be a 501c3 charitable organization. And that's a process that takes some time. So we got that done in July of 2016. In the meantime, we had a steering committee of a few people, friends of my daughter's, who didn't necessarily want to be on the board, but they knew other people. All three of my children, I've lived in Highland 30 years, all three of my children graduated from Highland High School.
Go Trojans!
So-
Yeah, baby.
So-
Me too. Ha!
So while I'm a native Chicagoan, I've been in Northwest Indiana for 30 years. And my great-grandparents, actually on my mother's side, are buried in Deep River Cemetery. So I've come home to my roots
Yes,
as
you
a
have.
Hoosier. But those people suggested other people who might be interested in being on a board and who were passionate about education. So we've been very fortunate to have great board members. So once we got the 501c3, then we set about, how are we going to raise money? And that's a challenge for any organization that's trying to give money away. You've got to raise it before you can give it away.
Yes.
So we do some fundraising. We'd like to do more. It's just the manpower and the idea. Our board is made up of, what do we have? I think we have 9 or 10 board members, I think. We just had one of our board members was the principal at the middle school, and she left school town of Highland to go to Lake Central to be in charge of their HR department. So she was a board member, so we lost her, so we got, but we've got a great board. Our board members also have been very generous with their time, talent, and treasure.
So let's talk about some of the events you have done. We participated in one that quite easily.
Well, yeah, that was easy.
It
Go
was
get
easy.
pizza. Hello.
Yeah.
Go to Mod Pizza. Yeah.
Mod Pizza,
Okay, I
which
can do that.
all the proceeds from that
20% of the-
20%.
yeah.
Yes. I mean, and a lot of our local restaurants do have what I call dine and donate nights. We've done them at Culver's in Highland. We've done a couple of them at Potbelly. We did the one at Mod Pizza, and we're going to be doing more. We kind of like to do them maybe every other month or so. So we're working on that. But the other thing that we do, and we have one coming up, is our Thank a Teacher campaign. And what we do it twice a year. In November, this year it's the week of November 12th, is American Education Week, which a lot of people, if you're not in education, you might not be aware that there is such a thing. But this is actually the 97th year
Oh, wow.
of American
I
education.
had no idea.
And I have a few notes that I took because they have
Teachers always come prepared.
They did.
We just had an ex-principal on here, and he was here like
Really
he had
early,
everything.
had all of his
Yeah,
papers, yes.
it's-
Well, one of the things, it's a week-long celebration to spotlight distinguished individuals who are critical in building great public schools. So some of the things that they do is, when you think about education, you think about the classroom teacher. As a classroom teacher, I can tell you the benefits that your child gets from being in school. The teachers are really important, but there are other important people. And everybody from the bus driver to the custodian to the women in the cafeteria. Sometimes a child gets on a bus and that bus driver, the child might not have had a good evening or a good morning, and the child gets on the bus driver's like, "Good morning, Johnny." You know, and that might be the first smiling face that child has seen that day, depending on what's going on in their lives. So we have had people, you can recognize any School Town of Highland employee.
Yeah, that's great.
During American Education Week. And what they get is they get a card and with our logo on it. And we have apple pins that we put in there. We have our logo. And inside it says, you know, thank you so much for all you do for the children of School Town of Highland. And I know a lot of our teachers who've gotten them, they put the pins on their lanyards. And what we really encourage people to do, besides make the donation to the foundation, and all the money that we raise goes back towards giving grants to classroom teachers for creative and innovative ideas. But a lot of the children, most of the time, what we encourage is for people to include a note. And that note is put in with a card and passed on. Some people put the note in a sealed envelope, which of course we don't open, but most people don't. And there is nothing more touching to a teacher, especially teachers of the little ones, where you see a child wrote with a crayon, you know, on a piece of construction paper, "Thank you for being my teacher," you know, or "You were the best teacher," and we've also had children, or actually adults, who graduated from high school who've written letters to an elementary teacher telling that teacher what a difference they made in their life. They might have been going through a difficult family situation at the time, and having that teacher be there for them. And so now when we send these out, when we deliver them, and I like to deliver them, we tell the teachers, don't open them until the end of the day, because you might be in
a
tears.
blubbering mess during your class.
Yes.
Okay, class, today we're gonna do.
And you know, and teachers have. I mean, we all have bad days at our jobs, no matter what they are. But teaching is especially rewarding. But every once in a while, you know, most of our parents are so supportive and so great. But occasionally, you get a parent that's upset about one thing that you did wrong, and you know, they ignore the hundreds of things you did right. But the one thing that, you know, might not have been the best thing for their child, and you know, they call you up and they're upset. And sometimes you're just like, you know, feeling like, you know, can I continue with this? This is just, it's a hard job.
Yes, it is.
I won't lie, it's a hard
It's
job.
a very difficult job.
So those kinds of letters and notes that teachers get, they put them in their desk drawers, usually underneath the organizer thing, and when you have a bad day, you pull these out and you say, this is why I do this. I do this for the kids. Because nobody's doing it for the money.
No. Oh gosh, no.
Oh no.
No.
It's a passionate engagement in your profession, and really, and that's what you see. Teachers' salaries that they have not gone with inflation. They've stayed stagnant over the years, and
The
it's
gap,
a
the
shame.
gap is considerable.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that they also have, so they've got a Education Support Professionals Day, which is in the middle of the week. So on November 14th, our paraprofessionals are just they help the teachers so much, and they build relationships with the students, and they really help out so much. The other thing is Substitute Educators Day.
Oh, wow.
I started out as a substitute teacher when I was an undergrad, and now as a retired teacher, because there's a dire need for substitutes. You know, especially when the unemployment rates go down, the number of subs goes down with it because people have full-time jobs. So I've been doing some subbing, and you walk into a situation, you never know what you're walking into. You could be doing 8th grade one day and 2nd grade the next day, and go into a classroom that has flexible seating and no seating chart. And you're like, are these children?
Who are you?
And the littles will cry. But I have enjoyed it so much. I really like the opportunity to get back in the classroom.
Yeah, when I lived in Florida, I was a substitute teacher, and I loved every minute of it. Yeah,
It's fun.
except for a chemistry class that I did one time, or a science class in the high school. And I walked to the back of the class after some of the students had left, and all of a sudden I realized I was surrounded by a bunch of dead cats because they did.
Oh no.
It was a pre-med, like a school that would work towards medical degrees and things for kids. Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, I started hearing Twilight Zone music going on in my head.
No dissecting fetal pigs for
No.
you.
And you have to look at what teachers, especially now with the recent events, that they have to be responsible for. With school safety, and it's quite an undertaking, especially if you're tasked with a large class, say 32 students. You not only have to be concerned about their education, but now, what happens if something happens within the school, and that's becoming a more frequent event, unfortunately. And so, we owe it to our educators, whether you're principal, assistant principal, secretary, teacher. They're so
Anyone that's
underappreciated.
involved, anyone involved
So-
in education.
And so, talking about appreciation, so you have a lot of teachers out there that may want to do a class project, but they're like, gosh, how can I? I'm already having to do all the construction paper stuff that to keep my class on curriculum. How do they apply for grant?
Thank you for asking that. We just, our deadline for this year's grant cycle was on Friday. So the board met last night and we looked over the applications. We had 20 grant applications, and the total ask was close to $20,000. Unfortunately, we have not raised $20,000. Our board was finalized in November of 2016, so our board is not even 2 years old. This is our second grant cycle. Our first grant cycle, we awarded about $9,000 in grants our very first year. This year, we're looking to at least match that. So obviously we're not able to fund all the grants because we've gotten so many this time. Last year I think we funded all the grant applications that we got because we didn't get too many.
Right.
But this year the grants were a little bit more competitive. So, you're looking at what's the impact to the student. And if you're talking about writing a grant that's going to cost $1,000 and it's only going to impact 12 students, as opposed to somebody and it might be a one-time thing, it's, an experience that, we probably couldn't fund ongoing. So, we try to fund things where it's going to have the most impact in terms of number of students and curriculum and things that are going to be able to be reused. Like if it's a class set of books, teachers always purchase books. I mean, sometimes classes, but you find a book that you think really will supplement what the textbook is doing and what the resources you have. But to buy 30 copies of a particular book, but if it's something that's going to be able to be reused time after time, for a few years anyway, that's something that will impact more students. So, we take a lot of things into consideration. Since we're new, we did use a rubric, and we discovered that we needed to tweak that rubric. It's a process. Sure. We're learning as well.
So you have a grading system for your application?
We do.
Based upon a rubric. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Carrying that, being a teacher all the way through.
Yes, if you're evaluating something, you want to make sure that we're trying to evaluate based on the guidelines the teachers were given.
So, can you share with us some of the applications and maybe some of the successful applications that you were able to fund?
I'll be happy to share last year's, because since we are in the process of finalizing some of the ones, we have not notified the recipients yet that they'll be getting their grant.
We don't want to
spoilers.
No spoilers.
No.
Yeah, no spoilers.
That's right.
It's kind of like
River
the
Song.
lottery.
Spoilers.
We don't disclose the lottery winner.
That's right.
Yeah. So, a couple of the things we did. We funded at Merkley School. We funded $500 for. They have a math lab. So we purchased $500 worth of math manipulatives to supplement some of the math manipulatives that they already had. So that obviously impacts a lot. Another was really popular. We did this at two of the elementaries because they had asked for it. At Warren and Southridge, there's a program called One School, One Book, and everybody at Southridge, they did Big Friendly Giant. And everybody in the building got a copy of the Big Friendly Giant. The students read a chapter, and parents were asked to read with their children an hour at night. The next day, the students would come in. They had a trivia question based on that chapter, and they put, if you got the right answer, you put the answer in, and they pulled a couple winners, and they got some little token thing from the principal.
So was that a building-based application then?
Those were building applications, both of them, because when we were just starting out, because we hadn't finalized our application process, it takes a while, but we wanted to put some money back in and get the teachers excited about, there is some money available if you've got something innovative to do. And also the PTOs and the, the school newsletters, they publicized that this was funded or partially funded by the Highland Education Foundation. So it was a pretty awesome thing. And one of the teachers at Southridge had her students, I think she's the sponsor for the K Kids Club at Southridge. She had the third grade students write thank you notes to the foundation. I have them all in sheet protectors in a binder.
Oh, yeah.
And one child wrote a note. Thank you for buying the BFG books. I really enjoyed reading them with my mother and sister. It brought us closer together. I was just like, oh my goodness.
For those who are not familiar, the K Club is a youth group sponsored by the local Kiwanis Club.
Right.
And they're kind of like a sub-chapter of the Kiwanis Club.
I think K Kids is the elementary and middle school, and then high school, I think, is the Key Club, isn't it?
Key
Yes,
Club,
it is.
yes, it is.
And then you graduate to the adult version, which is a great organization.
Which is a neat way to get kids started about service, community service groups. So, yeah, they're great. So, so you've had both building-based applications and teacher-based applications.
Now we've switched over to pretty much
Just teacher-based.
teacher-based. The teacher has to submit the application. One of the things that we wanted to avoid, and it's comes like with the building-based thing. Usually a building-based thing, there might be some discussion, but teachers like to come up with things on their own and do things that, you know, it's like if the principal says, we're all going to do this, you know, it's kind of like, nobody asked me if I wanted to do it.
Right.
But I mean, this was a project that was universally enjoyed by all. So one of the other things that we did, all the 5th grade students at School Town of Highland last year, and this was partially funded by us, got a copy of the book Wonder. When you talk about anti-bullying and building empathy, and they did activities and all kinds of different things based on that book. So it was a really wonderful way to try to have the children put themselves in someone else's place. So that was a really interesting thing. One of my favorites was Brenda Richardson at the high school, who teaches the child development class. When my daughter graduated, when she was at Highland High School, she took that class from Mrs. Richardson. It was, I think, Mrs. Richardson's first year. She was still Miss Larson.
Okay.
So she was very young and very new. But my daughter brought home like this 5-pound bag of flour, you know, and was supposed to be taking it with her everywhere and taking care of it. You know, I'm not quite sure how that went, but, you know, it was on the honor system. Well, now they have simulator babies.
Yes.
Simulator babies. Well, the ones in Mrs. Richardson's class, unfortunately, a few of the babies, a couple of the babies for sure, were like 10 years old. And they weren't really functioning very well. And the newer ones have much more capability.
Right.
Mrs. Richardson can program them. She can tell how often the baby's diapers are changed, if the baby's picked up, how long it takes from the time the baby starts crying. If you're handling the baby in a rough manner, it sends an alert. I mean, it is unbelievable what these simulator babies do. So it's kind of, you know, an upgrade to kind of a classic lesson, but it's so much more involved.
Right. Oh, I think that's amazing.
So, and those simulator babies are pretty pricey.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We also, one of the art teachers, Judy Bensinger, she put in an application for, you hear all this talk about STEM. You know, it's all about science, technology, engineering and math.
Yep.
Okay. Well, you know, there's a movement afoot to make that instead of just STEM, STEAM, and include the arts. And the arts are very critical.
They are.
I found that a lot of my
She's a little biased.
A lot biased.
Well, you know, a lot of my music students, band students, were really good at math.
Yes, because you have to learn all the counting and the fractions and things with the music.
Well, just to give a plug for the arts, specifically the performing arts, it's well known through research that if you play an instrument or involved in music, you have better test scores because of the dedication that you have to practicing the instrument and so on. So yeah, it's very key. Yeah, and then unfortunately in this day and age with cutbacks, the arts are really suffering, particularly in the band areas. It's awful. But
Let me just say, Dave Spittle, who was the band director at Highland High School, and darn it, he left after my freshman year, but Ohio State, their marching band has nothing on Dave Spittle and his marching things that we did. We were out there, we made trains that moved down the track, and we had people with the fire extinguisher doing the smoke coming out, and we did like people kicking. I mean, you name it, we were doing it. So, arts, baby.
Yeah, and if it weren't for the arts, we would all not be blessed with Mike Griffin's baritone playing at
That's
the parade.
true. 4th of July parade, you wouldn't hear Mike Griffin playing if it weren't for marching band in Highland High School.
So
Yeah.
I am definitely, and I will preface this by saying I have zero musical talent. I cannot sing. I cannot play an instrument.
Appreciate it.
I have tremendous appreciation for it, and I wish I had some talent in any artistic area. You know, I can't draw. You know, it's like none of that.
That's okay. I can do all those things, but I can't do math, which is weird.
My daughter can do both. She's
Bless
extremely
her.
artistic.
I
and-
love people like that.
Yeah, she's got both sides of her brain are working overtime.
Only one side of my brain works, and that's even questionable.
Anyway, Julie wrote a grant for they're called Little Bits, and they're really hard to describe, but you can build things with them. They're not exactly electronic Legos, but that's about the closest thing I can come up with. And it also, you know, it's about building and design and, you know, coding. And, you know, it just encompasses a
Very
lot.
cool.
And the kids loved it, just loved it. And then one of the other teachers at Southbridge got, there was a Lego education machine set, which taught about simple machines, the pulleys and the levers and the, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, and, you know, if you go to the store to buy Legos for a gift for, they're also not inexpensive.
Yes.
So is a lot of the grants that you've seen so far, and you do have some teacher grants coming, are you finding more of them moving towards technology based, specifically with the now STEM becoming prevalent in the schools?
We have had some really interesting, I will tell you about one grant that unfortunately we are not able to fund fully. Highland High School is starting a robotics team.
Oh, cool.
Great.
Okay, they have had them. I know Warren had one for a couple years. J.J. Royland, he's the principal over there. He was instrumental, so I know that theirs has been around for about 3 years. I don't think the middle school has one yet. Southbridge, I think, is starting one this year. But it costs a tremendous amount of money. And Munster has a robotics team. Hammond has one. One of my granddaughters goes to Crown Point School System, and she's been involved in robotics. She's in 7th grade this year. She's been involved in robotics since 3rd grade. You know, we are definitely, so if there's anybody out there that has an interest in robotics and would really like to contribute to that, you know, getting it started, I don't think there's money for the whole amount in the school budget. I don't know what that situation is like, but I know that the school in their current budget would not be able to fund it. There's a possibility that there might be where it would be added to the curriculum at some point. That's certainly a school board decision that the foundation has no, you know, no input
They would
into.
have to fund it.
Yeah.
State law.
Then they would have to fund it. Yeah. But you know, if anybody would like to donate.
I was going to say for anything. If anybody out there
Corporate
is like, what
sponsors.
can I do? Yes, corporate sponsors, but even individuals who want to make a difference. How do they go about doing that?
Okay. There is, if you go, we're in the process of building our own website. And this is, keep in mind that when I was in high school, calculators did not exist. So building a website is certainly not a skill that's in my wheelhouse. So, but we've got somebody who is going to be helping us for a reasonable amount of money. But we've got to provide content. There's a lot that it's just not going in and typing up a few things and putting up a couple pictures. But the school town of Highland, if you go to their homepage, you'll see our logo on the homepage. And if you push that, so we have a page on their website, and there's a donate button. So they take PayPal. You could also just write a check to the Highland Education Foundation, put it in an envelope, and send it to School Town of Highland, and their address is 9145, I think.
And if you get that to us, we can.
We'll put that
actually,
information up on our.
Yeah, we'll get our information put up on our Facebook page,
And then
so
how,
people
how do
have that.
people find out about these nights where you can go out and purchase food at a restaurant and the proceeds?
Usually what we do is, well, we put it on our Facebook page, and the other thing is that all the schools are notified. So usually it will go on the school newsletter. I'm really excited about one thing as far as communicating with the public. For the last couple of years, we've been blessed with some communication students from Purdue Northwest. And they have done some media, they've done some press release stuff. And Dee Francoeur, who graduated from Highland High School with my daughter, is an instructor in the communications department, and I reached out to her and said, you know, we really need help with this social media thing. I can post pictures of my grandkids on Facebook, and more likely my dog, and I can put notices, but I need a real good crash course in remedial Twitter. I don't get it.
Yeah.
So there is a media course, social media course involved there. So she reached out to some of the students, and I just met with her yesterday. Her name is Nancy Singh. She's a senior at Purdue Northwest, and she is going to be helping us with scheduling our Facebook posts. So we're planning on posting like twice a week.
Oh, that's great.
If we don't have something necessarily about the foundation specific for that particular time, maybe once a week we'll post something that pertains specifically to the foundation. But, you know, hints about education, hints for parents, about different things that they might find of interest.
So if you go to Facebook and go to the Highland Education Foundation, you've got a page there. Is there also a link on that page for donating?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm sure, because I remember last time I went in there, I said added donate button.
Okay.
So, but I
But
knew
you are set up as a 501c.
we are a 501c3, so that's especially for anybody. I mean, because of the robotics thing, I mean, that's an expensive undertaking. If you wanted to donate money because they don't have, like, you've got band boosters and you've got athletic boosters and you've got, you know, other organizations that have booster clubs that may have their own 501c3. This does not. So if you donate money and you want it specifically for the robotics team, you could send us the donation and ask it that we would be specifically dedicated to that purpose. So we would act as like a flow through.
Got it.
Because, you know, if you just write the check to the sponsor, you don't get any,
Right, no tax. And we're looking at, this is the last quarter of the year, and so people will be
Right.
doing their taxes in a little while. Now's the time to start making those donations and getting your tax credits at the same time. So.
And what better thing to fund than education? And you know, one of the things I will say, you know, I think, many of us know this, is that as inflation increases and cost of living goes up, our funding to education has not. I mean, it has
Well,
remained stagnant.
there's actually been cuts at the federal level.
Yes.
You know, the school systems have a lot of federally mandated things that they have to do,
And state.
and state, and they keep adding things to the curriculum, things that have to be taught to the students. Unfortunately, they don't include the funding to provide the materials to teach that. So that has to come out of the existing school budget, and then so something's got to get cut somewhere.
Right.
And I really believe that, you know, School Town of Highland, from where I sit, I've been here 30 years, I think that they have done an excellent job of being fiscally responsible. You know, it's kind of, you know, no frills. They do the best they can with what they've got, and they're very careful.
And you know, a lot of people sit back and they wonder why, you know, the referendums are happening, and they have to realize that's the environment that educational facilities have been put in. That, you know, they're strapped. And when it comes time, and they only get their funding cycle once a year, and meantime things go up. There may be something happening to the building, and it's not like a commercial entity that can go out and get money or get a loan necessarily. It's more difficult. So organizations like the educational foundations around are a very adequate way for you to donate to the school district
and the future of your community.
Right. And again, I know a lot of people would love to sit back and complain, well, why should I already pay taxes? Well, write down state, write down. And also we have an election coming up, so you have a very appropriate way of communicating that. But in the meantime, boy, there are teachers out there that are funding education literally out of their own pockets. And so what a better way than to make a donation or go get a pizza at Mod Pizza or wherever. Keep an eye open for wherever they have.
That's right.
Events.
Go to their web page or go to their Facebook page and look and see what's coming up and where you can go. What better way to go out and have a good meal and know that you're helping somebody at the same time?
And they know they're going to get a tax write-off too. So it's all 501(c), and so they get the information. So by all means. And is there anything? What about events? Do you have any interesting events coming up that we can put out there for you?
Well,
like galas or something.
The fundraising campaigns, I talked to you about the Thank a Teacher campaign, and actually for American Education Week, and even when we do our teacher appreciation or do the campaign in the spring, we do it in conjunction with teacher appreciation. But at any time, it's anybody who's involved in the employee of the school town of Highland. So that's a fundraiser. Our big fundraiser is Trivia Night. And we had our second trivia night last year. The first one we had at the Highland Elks, which was, the people couldn't have been better to work with. I highly recommend if you have a function. But we outgrew the space. We sold out. So we were looking for some place where we could have more tables. And there was no more room there. So last year we had it at a place called The Room, which is on Indianapolis Boulevard, and it's close to where the old Ultra was. It's in that complex over there. If you're not familiar with it, because that's where we're having it again this year. Everything else in there is pretty close, but there's an establishment there called Cuffs and Hoses, I think. And
the one that the police officers and the firemen.
And it's owned by a Highland grad.
Okay.
I'm so glad my daughter went to Highland High School.
That's right. You know a lot of people when you go to Highland.
And right next door to that is the facility called The Room.
The Room, all right.
And they have some concerts and different things there. But and that's a really fun night. We just have.
When is that coming up?
It'll be April 6th.
April 6th of this coming year.
Mm-hmm. On Saturday.
And people can sponsor.
Thank you. That's what we're also looking for, sponsors, both event sponsors and round sponsors. Last year, like Tauber Law sponsored a round. And when you sponsor a round, what we try to do is we try to have the trivia questions so they were law-related questions.
So cruise planners, which I am the cruise planner chick for the travel agency, I'm doing it this coming year. I already told you I was going to do it, so we're going to have a lot of travel and geography kind of questions.
Mm-hmm. So, it's a fun thing, and especially if you're a smaller business, I know a lot of the opportunities for sponsoring things, they want thousands of dollars to sponsor things. This is, we don't quite have our price structure set yet. Last year to sponsor a round was $250, and I can't imagine it would be much more than that, $300. So it's a relatively low amount. If you want to sponsor the event, in that case, if you're an event sponsor, that's a little bit more money, but your name goes on all of the advertising, the posters and things. If you are sponsoring a round, your name will be on in the program with the round, and then when we get to that round, then kind of do a little ad for that. for that business. So that's a fun thing. It's a
That
really
sounds
fun
lots of
event.
fun.
So
Well, Bill and Kelly show could get involved in that
Yeah,
too.
we certainly
So,
could.
double-
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Double your pleasure.
Double your pleasure.
But we
I'd
had
love to get involved.
Yeah, we had, the first year we did it, there were teachers, 6th grade teachers from the middle school who won. And we have a traveling trophy.
Oh, kind of like the Stanley Cup is.
So and we have little plaques that go, all the way around. So the first year, the trophy was housed at the middle school. Last year there were parents from Warren. So the trophy has moved over to Warren. If you are a participant and your group wins and you are not housed in any of the schools, then the trophy would reside at the administration center. Okay. So
Fun.
Yeah, it
So,
does. So
I love
it
this.
makes getting money for education fun. So,
exactly,
yeah.
it absolutely
So,
is.
Before we get too far, because we're getting to, we got some time, but we're getting close to the end of the show. Talk about your advisory board. I know you told us there's about 9 or 10 of them on the, and who are they, if you can disclose that?
I can. And I brought my list because I was so afraid I would forget someone. We have Jennifer Gluth and my daughter Beth Harwood, who's the co-founder. Jane Kuva. She was previously, and she's still involved with Girls on the Run, but she had been on the board of Girls on the Run when it started, and I think she timed off the board, so many terms.
Right.
So and every one of our members brings something special to the table.
Sure.
But one of the things about Jane is that she has already been with a foundation or a nonprofit from its inception, and she knows what you need to do to take it to the next level and grow it. So she's definitely an asset. Doug Lewis, who works for Edward Jones here in town, and thank goodness for him, because his first thing that he did as a board member is he signed us up to join the Chamber of Commerce, which would not have ever occurred to me. And that has been a godsend. It has just opened so many doors. Sure.
That's how we met you.
And exactly. I know. And I have met, I've lived here 30 years. I've met more people in the last 3 years than I met in the previous 27 years.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you, Highland is full of wonderful, wonderful people. Kind,
Why, thank you.
compassionate. Just, wonderful people.
She is an actress.
Okay, then we have Brian Smith. He is the school superintendent, and he does sit on our board. Ed Stone, who's a parent from Warren, although he no longer has. I think all of our board members, when they started, they had a kid at Warren, and now they've all kind of gone up the grades. Stephanie Waldron, she is a Southridge parent, and she also has a middle schooler, I believe, or maybe does she have just a middle schooler and a high schooler now? They grow so fast,
Yes,
and the
they
years
do.
go by. But she's also she works for School Town Hobart. So and Hobart has an education foundation, so sometimes there's that. And then we also have our student member is Ethan Shirla, and he was on our board last year and this year. Last year we had Katie Tripp, who was there from the beginning. We're in the process of getting a junior, because Ethan's senior, and when they sign on as a junior, it's a 2-year commitment. So we really value the student input. Also, we feel that it's a good way for them to learn about giving back to their community. This whole foundation thing has just been a godsend for me. First of all, it's kept me from dying of boredom in my retirement years. But as an educator, this is the way for me to give back to my profession, give back to my community, meet new wonderful people, and just I'm a lifelong learner. I went back to school last year and took a course on education foundation leadership. You know, and it's like, and I had sworn I would never take another class, and I took 6 of them. But very, very interesting. So I'm learning so much. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm keeping busy. So it's been a great experience. I'd also like to have a shout out to the Hammond Education Foundation. Their executive director, Josh Long, has been a mentor to me and very helpful. I've gone over there, picked his brain. He's helped us out so much. And also the Munster Education Foundation. They have been wonderful about inviting me to attend their board meetings, and they've shared information with me as well. The Education Foundation community we're all advocates and promoters of education foundations. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me.
Right. Oh, that's fantastic. So now, you mentioned the board members, the advisory board members. If someone's interested in becoming an advisory board member, is there a process? Do they have to go through an FBI investigation, a Senate hearing, or what is the process? I may have scared some people off, by the way.
No, the process is a pretty simple one. If you have the time and the interest in supporting public education, basically what we've done thus far, it's pretty much been word of mouth. And we are looking to expand our board by a couple members. But if you have time, talent, and treasure that you are willing to donate to us and help us out in any way, all you have to do, if you go online, you can go to the Facebook page and private message me. You can go to our page on the School Town of Highland website, and there should be an email address there. And I have a School Town of Highland email also. But you can, and I'm pretty sure my phone number's on there. Just give me a call. If I don't answer, leave a message, because I'm frequently out doing.
I know that feeling.
Doing foundation business, but yeah. So that's one of the things too. We were talking a little earlier about the funding and all that kind of thing. Unfortunately, it's not new. When I taught in Hammond for 2 years, the first year I taught, I was a single mom with 3 kids. And in November, one of my colleagues said to me, around the 1st of November, she said, by the way, when they hired you, they did tell you that you weren't going to be paid in December, didn't they? And I'm like, you're kidding. I thought this is something that they tell rookie teachers.
Yeah.
And they said, no. The Indiana legislators have not been able to get their act together to pass the budget.
I remember that.
And School City of Hammond ran out of money. So both of the years that I worked there, I did not get a paycheck in December. I got my...
Like a really important month, too, for
I got my December paycheck. January 2nd, I got my December money because of the way the budget thing went. And it was like really crazy because, thank goodness for the Regional Federal Credit Union, which is the credit union for that originally was for teachers in Hammond. Because what they did is they lent teachers, if you needed it, they lent you the money that you would need from your paycheck.
Knowing rent and things, yeah.
Knowing that on the second they'd get it back, and I think they charged a couple bucks just to process, But it was like, so it's like, first of all, the teachers don't get paid much in the first place, and in the second place, then you're not going to give us the money that our paycheck is supposed to be because you run out of money.
I wonder what would happen if we couldn't pay our state legislators.
Thanks, man. Well, that's an interesting thing because they tried doing that in Illinois. They tried doing that in Illinois. And
they had to.
The state constitution prevents them from withholding pay from the legislators.
Oh, well, of course.
Yeah.
So they have built-in protection. They don't live by the same rules the rest of us live by.
No.
They're guaranteed medical benefits and pay.
Well beyond.
Well beyond, yes.
Well
what we
beyond.
get.
And, they do deserve it, don't they?
So, and I don't want to disparage. I mean, there are a lot of fine people who are.
And we do. I'm just kidding,
I-
folks. We do
yeah.
have it. That's just a common
But
joke.
but it just seems like there are fewer and fewer that seem to be there for the public good. A lot of them seem to be there anymore for their own.
Yes.
We do have some good
And again, get out
legislatures
there
in
and
this
vote.
area
Yeah.
that have
We
actually
do.
bucked their
That's
own
right.
party to fund education, and both in Porter and Lake County, we're blessed with some very good representation. But you wonder. I mean, sometimes when you go down there, and I think we saw Governor Holcomb stand up to him this year and said, "No, there are some issues that I wanted you to pass, and you didn't get to them. Go back." Well, that cost us $30,000 a day. It wasn't exactly a free go back, but But at any rate, it is a crying shame that sometimes education, which in this society should take a front seat, often takes a back seat.
And the other thing is that I know people are, they're weary with the referendum thing. And unfortunately,
Oh, really?
a lot of people really are.
Oh, I thought they're all behind it, all gung-ho, and they put all these yards in, vote this, vote that.
Oh,
No?
I know, and I understand, and nobody wants to pay more taxes. But when you're talking about funding education, try to think of it as an investment in the future. You're not just paying for, unnecessary stuff. And if you talk to any real estate agent, they will tell you that the primary factor in determining real estate value is the quality of the school
education.
system. So if you're worried about your money and the investment in your home, invest in education, because that's going to maintain and increase the value of your home.
Absolutely.
And I've been guilty, like anyone, of criticizing that. Really, my criticization, it comes in the percentage of referendums. It's not like the whole community can vote on it. But that's voting in general. I'm very critical about our voting, our ability to get up and vote. But one thing that I've heard constantly, and I've looked at, and it makes sense. The shift in the way schools are funded. And really our property taxes in Northwest Indiana, all you do is have to look over to Illinois.
Oh.
We are still a pretty cheap place to live,
Yes.
comparatively. And and like you said, by supporting the schools, you gotta remember the schools are in quite a quandary. Their funding revenue sources changed, and what the state is saying, hey, if you need more money than we're going to give you, you go out to your community and get it. Hence the referendums. And you got to keep in mind, there's how many buildings in the district that they all have to upkeep. There's buses that have to be upkept, which is funded by a transportation fund, but we won't get into that. But still, it's a pretty large company to keep running on a fixed budget, and you can't exactly go out and easily get more money, and hence referendums. And so I know we all complain about them, but they're a way of keeping public education going, and it's what's funding a lot of people through life. So it's educate us all. Well, we are so blessed to have you today.
Absolutely.
To
Thank you
hear
so
about
much.
the foundation.
I've enjoyed being here.
And thank you for making time to be here. And one thing I was going to ask you, a possibility, we can invite some of the teachers that win grants on the show. They don't have to, but but we would love to talk to them and talk about their ideas and what they do, how they came up with their idea to get the grant application to the foundation, and we'd love that.
That would be fun.
Neat. Yeah.
To share with people.
So with that, is there anything else you want to share with us? Maybe any event or?
Not at this point. We're still. If you've got any ideas for great fundraisers, we're absolutely looking for them.
All right, you heard it here, people.
Right, and we do have some fun stuff to share with you, although When I switch over, I realized I missed something on my checklist. I forgot to put the microphone in one of these things. So you're going to lose hearing us for a bit, but I will quickly add it. There we are. All right. So, Kelly and I happened to stop by the local Target.
Target.
And we happened upon this atrocity. Best we can figure that some guy was Halloween candy shopping, and a bag of, what is that, Snickers fell on him. Yeah.
Gotta do it. Those peanuts weigh a lot.
They do. So this poor guy evidently tried to dial 911
but passed away before he could get through.
Yeah. So, just think of that as you're going through the candy aisle at Target. Some poor guy
died from a
suffered
Snicker bag.
Yeah, it's a Snicker bag. And I also have kind of a neat thing here for Kelly. I'm going to switch over to... Oh.
Now I'm scared.
No reason to be scared.
Where did you find that? Oh, hi, baby. Oh, my goodness. I love deer so much. You have no idea. Oh, look at that sweetheart. Oh, I just want to take it home. You sweet, cute thing. Deer are my patrons. This guy likes selfies. You can tell. Oh, that makes me happy.
Yeah, we're back again.
Nothing makes me happier than when I'm driving back to my house and right off of Kennedy, there's those deer that hang out back in there.
Watch
And
this guy.
when I see one, I'm so happy.
He's kind
that's
of
great.
gets the camera.
Aw, he knows I'm watching. He's trying to give me a kiss. I love
So
you too.
that's there's a special story behind Kelly and her deer.
Yes.
Anytime she sees them,
I
it's
know,
going
it's
to be
my
a good
mom.
day. It's a
my
message
mom.
from her mom.
From my mom.
And butterflies is from your
Butterflies
sister.
from my sister.
So, yeah, with that, so there's your treat for today. We'll keep them
little
coming.
deer. Aw.
Yeah.
I love that.
So again, thank you,
Thank
and
you so
please
much.
come on back.
My
Your
pleasure.
open
Yeah,
invitation.
anytime.
Whenever
And-
there's an event or something, if you want us to, we'll get it out there
Well,
for sure.
after the first of the year, maybe after we've awarded the grants and the teachers have the materials, because it's a process. Once we
I can
award the
imagine.
grants, then there's ordering them and getting them and implementing in the classroom. So maybe after we get that,
Sure.
we can get
Hear
some.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we want to.
Yeah,
We
sure.
want the
We'd
411.
love it.
Yeah. One
Yep.
I'm really looking forward to is we got a grant for some drones,
Cool.
and that has to do with coding, and that's
Yeah.
that's already in a
That's
class.
very
man.
cool.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love all that stuff.
Well,
Awesome. We'll
yeah.
we'll keep you updated on all this cool stuff, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, it's neat stuff. Neat stuff. So with that, we want to wish you a safe week, rest of the week and weekend. Tonight it's going to get kind of choppy as you watched my weather report yesterday.
That's right.
Yeah, and it looks like then it's going to clear up for a bit, then it's going to get choppy again.
So
for
the weekend is going to be
Saturday.
a little iffy. So
Yeah.
a lot of good indoor things. Go see a show in Northwest Indiana. Go to
Right.
NIETF.org, NIETF.org. Find out what theaters in the area are, showcasing their talent, and go see a
Sweeney
show.
Todd and Valpo.
Sweeney
Sweeney
Todd and
Todd
Valpo.
and
I saw it
Valpo.
opening night.
And-
my friend Jason Utesh is the lead playing Sweeney Todd. It's amazing.
And the
Evil
Evil
Dead, the
Dead
musical at Chicago Street is
Street Theater.
opening. Also, Dark of the Moon at Footlight in Michigan City is opening this weekend. So lots of good shows to go
It's
see.
kind of interesting. We had the guy that was playing the lead role from Evil Dead
Evil
on
Dead on
the show
Tyler
yesterday.
Mills, yes.
And as he's leaving the studio, he said how scared he was to be on our show.
Right.
And I'm like, hold it. This is a guy that appears in a show where they actually had to hand out ponchos in the splatter zone.
They have a splash
blood
zone. Yes,
splatter
they do.
zone. And he's afraid to be on our show. That must
Because
be
you
you,
have
not
to
me.
because you have to be yourself on the show. That's the great thing about acting is when you
true.
get up there, you're in front of all those people, but you're not you. You're somebody else. That's why acting is easier.
Because of Kelly.
the way it is.
Okay, goodbye, everybody. Have a
See
safe
ya.
weekend. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.